What's up, buddies? Good morning. Thumbnail pick, and cheers to the coffee. All right, so basically what I have here is one of Paul's old projects. This is tech news right from last week, right? Now this is how I started out. Now, just so you know, I'm going to show you what I'm about to show you here in Premiere Pro, but also in DaVinci, right? But something that I do often is basically nesting Paul's main camera footage, which is just this, what we got here, into a nested sequence when he does the screen capture, right? Now, he films usually using a main camera, right? To get like a high quality, 4K footage from the camera itself, because, a main camera gets better quality than does, the webcam, which is what I'm using, right? That's what I'm using at the moment. It's a webcam, and as you can see, there's a lot of motion blur. It's not as clear or whatever, right? So to get the best quality, he uses a camera to capture 4K footage, right? Now, also another thing that he does is he does screen capture using OBS, and he puts himself in the bottom corner here, almost like a reference, right? So you can see what his camera is at to make sure nothing is being covered when he's doing his explanation of, whatever he's screen capturing and he's discussing about, right? However, the problem with this is that right now I'm recording through my webcam using OBS, and the processing of the recording or whatever is basically being created inside of my computer, right? Depending how you have your computer set up, at the moment I'm using my GPU to encode the video capture, right? Now in OBS, here in the top we have like the stats, right? Basically showing you the average render time for like a frame and other stuff, and like it tells you if there's any frames missed due to rendering lag, stuff like that. I have a pretty good GPU, so there's not much render lag going on, but the thing is, like, once I start getting busy, if I start doing stuff like something in the background, say like I'm playing back a video, let's say play on this.
So there's an update on the ARC situation as it stands, and I really hope Intel figures out how to get things back on track sooner rather than later. I didn't expect ARC to just refer to the rising and falling hype levels in 2022.
Alright, now if you just notice that, basically there's like an average render time frame, right? As you can see, when I was playing like the video in the background, the render time was changing, right, per frame. So basically what's happening is that like the render time for each frame that's going on inside of like OBS is not consistent, right? Unlike with the camera, when you're filming, it kind of like does a good job of like filming everything in a consistent manner, right? It films each frame individually in a consistent manner, right? Depending on the camera. However, in this case, I'm using a webcam, my computer using processing power, the CPU, the GPU, whatever. So depending on what I'm doing in the background, that's gonna affect the render time of the screen capture, right? Now, the reason why that's important is because when I add the screen capture for Paul's Tech News, let me see, I'm gonna change the color of it just so you can see the difference. So this guy here, this is the main camera, and this is the screen capture, right? Now if I sync this, right, I'm gonna right click, synchronize, and just say audio, right? It's gonna take a while. All right, synchronize, right? Now if I play this back, let's listen to the audio.
So that's my big news for like what seems to be a launch date for AMD, much of an overclock because Intel is...
Okay, you hear the difference? You see, this is the beginning of the video, right?
And yes, I'll be showing off the initial move-in and setup procedures in a video soon.
Alright, you can hear a little bit of a chorus, so that means it's a little bit off, right? But as we progress more towards like the middle,
The competition, in case you're wondering, is AMD's Radeon RX.
that sounds pretty bad, right? Now let's go more towards the end.
Instead of contemplating the blindingly fast progress of machine learning, neural networks, and AI
Yeah, see, you can still hear it like it's a bit of a chorus.
kicked in, while you can trade it now, you can't redeem it for
Alright, so yeah, it gets very bad more towards the end, the center, right?
ASUS or EVGA or MSI, but Gunnier, whose A380 Photon OC, is a big step down from being about RTX 3070 level.
Alright, so basically what you're hearing there is like the audio is out of sync, right? And if we zoom in here, let me make this bigger. So if I zoom in here, see like where the spikes are at, you see like the spikes here are very uneven, right? See that? Here's the beginning of I'll pause the dialogue. See that little delay? Yeah, so basically, like I said, like I showed you pretty much in the OBS, those milliseconds render time that I showed you, that it was like changing or fluctuating as like the video was like playing in the background, Yeah, so each individual frame is being taken longer or shorter depending on like what's going on in your computer. So that delay or that fluctuation of time that it's taking to render each frame, as the video progresses, depending on what's going on, there could be a massive delay, right? And sometimes, like if your computer is very slow, if you're doing a screen capture, that delay can be more significant as the video progresses, right? So that's something to keep in mind, right, when you're doing this kind of stuff, right? Now the reason why that's a big deal is because now this is the audio from the OBS, right? Let me see, I'm just gonna snip the ends off to make it more even. If we find an area here,
70 level performance.
all right, now the reason why that's kind of a problem is because we use a lavalier mic, right? Well, Pod does, right? I'm just gonna make this stereo really quick because right now it's mono, so make this stereo. Just it sounds better, right? Now I'm gonna disable the main camera footage, right? So all we see is the screen, right? Now if I bring in my audio for the lavalier mic, and if I sync that really quick, I synced up the audio right now. This is like this is the audio from like the pause screen capture, right? Now if we play this back,
Comes factory overclocked with a dual fan cooler.
okay, that sounds all right. But if we go more towards the end,
More miners jumping to those networks increases their difficulties.
okay, so that sounds good, right? We don't hear like an echo. Basically, that means that like the audio is right on top of each other, so it sounds pretty good, right? But if we go more towards the end,
Consider staring at a high definition OLED screen to distract yourselves.
you hear that? It almost sounds like he's kind of like a robotic. You know, that's basically when the audio starts to get out of sync, right? Let's go to the beginning.
Intel's Arc desktop
Oh,
GPU.
wow. Oh, so you can hear that. That's really bad in the beginning.
Things are already well underway with temperatures heating up and tech news slowing down to a
All right, so as you can see, like the lavalier mic, it records at a different, like I guess, refresh rate or a different like time sequence than like the screen capture does, right? Because the screen capture, as Paul is doing his videos or whatever, the time fluctuates as it's rendering each frame, right? It's not consistent. The same thing happens with Paul's like a main camera footage, right? It's recording at a different render rate than the screen capture, right? The lavalier mic is recording the audio at a different like different rate than these two combined, right? So everything can get kind of messed up, right? Audio from the screen capture I don't use, right? I just delete it because Paul he uses like an external mic mainly to help sync up the audio, kind of like I am. So the audio is not as good as like the lavalier mic, which is this, right? So I'm gonna delete this, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sync the lavalier mic to Paul's main camera footage, right? Because we want those to be more in sync, because we're gonna be using Paul's like camera footage on top of like the screen capture, right? And I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. So I'm gonna sync these guys, right click, synchronize, and hit OK. Should be pretty quick depending on the length of your project. So I'm just gonna clip the ends here just to make it more even, make sure everything's nice and clean. Now if we hear this, it should be pretty close.
But there was also a handful of actual text stories.
That sounds good. Let's go more towards the middle.
The card says it has a 2042
Okay, that sounds good too. More towards the end.
inch LG C2. DP prices have come down, and you're going to want to
All right, you hear that? So basically, because the camera does a better job at recording at a more consistent rate than like the OBS capture, pause screen capture, it's able to sync up very well with Paul's lavalier mic, right? Because there's no like hiccups, right? There's no delay in like render time and stuff like that, right? This is a good sync, right? So in this case, I don't need the audio from like the Paul's camera because it doesn't sound good.
compare that $641 RTX 3080.
Yeah, this is like the audio from the camera, so it doesn't sound good, so we don't need that. I can delete this, right? And I'm gonna keep the audio from like the lavalier mic, right? Again, we wanna use the main camera footage on this bottom right corner on top of Paul's screen capture, right? For two reasons. One, it looks better, right? But not only that, because I know for sure the audio from the lavalier mic is more in sync than Paul's main camera footage, right? So we want to use the main camera footage because it looks better and it's also more in sync with like the lavalier mic. So I'm gonna select this, I'm gonna hold Alt, and it's gonna duplicate it, go up, and I'm gonna let go. Now, I could leave it like this, right? But I wanna keep it simple, so I'm gonna select these two, right click, hit nest, screen capture, and what that's gonna do is gonna take these two selected clips that's taking up two video layers, and that's gonna compound them into one single layer, right? Hit OK, and there you go, right? Now this is still on top of each other, everything's in sync, it's still good. Now if I double click on this, it's gonna open a new timeline, right? It's the same thing. So now the cool thing is that I'm able to select this, and I can minimize this, right? Say like, I don't know, whatever size I want, or that needs to be, and I can position this here on the bottom right corner, and I can basically try to like, match the dimensions of this screen capture from Paul's like OBS, right? Just to like, as a reference almost. let's just say 40. I'm gonna try to put it, say, over here. I got a little area here that I don't want, right? So I can actually hit a mask. I'm gonna hit invert it. So this is gonna work almost like a cutout, right? Because it's an inverted mask. And basically I can move this over until see like the edge of like Paul's OBS capture, right? So now I can just extend this, you know, out, just to cut this out. I can hold shift. It goes straight up. I can click once just to select this point by itself and deselect the rest of the points here. And it moves, see, like directly down by holding shift. It like snaps in place almost. So now I have like more of a straight line here, right? But when it comes with a little bit of feather, I usually get rid of it. So I put that at 0. That way, you know, you have like a straight hard edge here, right? Now what we're seeing here is like the main like 4K footage, right? It's got shrunken down to the bottom corner.
Like what seems to be a launch date for AMD's Ryzen 7000 series CPUs and AM5.
So yeah, it's better image quality. It's more in sync and it looks good, right? Now to finish the video, I'm gonna like do the same thing in like DaVinci. So same thing. I already got my main camera footage here, right? I'm gonna change the color so it can match. All right. I'm gonna drop in pause screen capture, right? Now this comes with like 2 separate audio tracks, but it's the same thing, but it doesn't matter, right? So we can select these guys both, right click, auto align based on waveform, let it do its thing, right, good stuff. So I'm just gonna quickly go here to the ends. Snip that, go to the end, snip that, delete. We already know we don't need the audio here, but if I select the audio, it's gonna select the footage, so I'm gonna click on link here, the chain. So select these guys, delete, move towards the front. I'm gonna click this guy, I'm gonna hold Alt and move up. That's gonna duplicate it. And just like in Premiere Pro, I'm gonna right click, but in this case, instead of nest, it's called compounding. So I'm gonna right click and make a new compound clip. And let's just call this screen capture. Hit enter, and there you go. You know, I like to keep everything simple. Just change the color. Let's just say olive. So I'm gonna right click and it says open timeline. It's gonna open the timeline for us. And now what I can do here is basically just like a Premiere Pro. I can select my 4K footage. I'm gonna go to like the inspector here. And now we could just, you know, reduce the size of it. You know, we can position this guy wherever we want. See, 35, I guess, or maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, the numerical values are a little different in for DaVinci, that's for sure. That, move this over right here. We're going to do cropping. It's actually easier because if you do crop left, you can just click this. And there you go. Now, there you go, it's matched. So we go back to our main timeline. I don't know, I just double click on the timeline here in my master bin. So now if we play this.
But people need entry-level GPUs too, right? AMD's Radeon RX 6400.
All right, so they're basically the same thing in DaVinci Resolve, right? You're able to do what I just showed in Premiere and DaVinci Resolve, like like I just showed you, right? Pretty cool stuff. So, anyways, yeah, that's basically it, right? So, how long was this video? Not too long, I hope. Yeah, it's been a long one, but whatever. Hey, I'm showing you good stuff, right? So. Hopefully this video is a help to you guys. If it is of a help, I'll put some QR codes so you guys can buy me a coffee. I really would appreciate it if you guys can. If you guys can't, don't worry about it. It's all good. Just leave a like, a comment, and like come hang out with me on Mondays mornings. We're trying to like do more streams now consistently. I'm gonna try to aim to like stream in the afternoons, maybe on Tuesday or Wednesdays. You know, I'll let you guys know. Thanks for hanging out with me for a bit. Take care and peace.